A big plume of moisture with our atmospheric river forecast continuing to showcase a couple more weather systems that will be due in, fluctuating snow line as well as more valley rain. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. Be sure to download that ABC 10 Plus app. Not only are we talking about our extended forecast, but we've got our weather specials, including the very hot topic of California water. Not only do we have California's water future, but we also have the power of water. You want to make sure to check it all out on ABC 10 Plus. Is live, local, always on. And of course, we're going to continue with these extended forecasts. We're seeing the back edge of storm system number 1 right now pulling through the valley. So that's going to give us a bit of a break here as we head up into the foothills and the Sierra. We continue to watch areas of rain mixed with snow in the Tahoe Basin. It's been kind of dicey here with snow line bumping up and down the I-80 corridor, and that is giving us fluctuating snow lines as well as chain control. So it's largely been a water event for the high country. Once we head south of Highway 50, the good news here is that we just quite frankly have higher peaks, and that's allowing us to get at least some snow in parts of the Sierra, which we still need. I'll show you why with that latest snow survey. Here's the big plume of moisture, good tap in the subtropics. We've got that developing low that's going to pull in some colder air, helping to bring down the snow line, because right now we've been basically with a rain event for South Lake Tahoe with almost an inch of precipitation, about an inch or so for Placerville, closer to about 3/10 for Sacramento, but points northward, slightly higher totals, upwards of about 3/4 of an inch to almost an inch of rain for Marysville, Oroville, as well as Fairfield, almost an inch and a half for Santa Rosa. And then for the northern San Joaquin Valley, we've really been pretty dry for the day. A couple of spots of showers there and about 1/10 of an inch of rain. Now, we've seen some gusty winds as well. Most of that was focused in the Sierra, where you can see wind gusts over 55 miles per hour, almost 60 miles per hour for South Lake Tahoe. So it's been a rainy and windy day in the high country. Lower elevations, our peak wind gusts were at about 25 to 30 miles per hour. Still have that flood watch in effect through tomorrow for the valley, and then our winter weather advisory remains in effect through early tomorrow for the Sierra. But again, most of that has been kind of a mixed bag of precipitation. South of Highway 50, we get to those higher peaks, bigger impacts, and so our winter storm warning stays in effect for much of the central Sierra and parts of the southern Sierra until tomorrow morning. One other thing I wanted to note, because of how this rain has been falling, we're seeing some vulnerability with an avalanche warning in effect. Now, that will mostly be on the roads, not necessarily the ski resorts, because they do mitigation and they plan for the potential for avalanches, so they're able to get those booms going and some of those loud sounds to just kind of spur the avalanche vulnerability. But on the roads, that is not the case. So just be aware, heading up into the high country, even though it is rain at some of the lower elevations, could still see some slides. Again, we're getting a bit of a break tonight through early tomorrow in the valley and through much of the Sierra. The one focus of energy will be parts of the Sierra foothills closer to about Susanville and Quincy, where we're seeing areas of heavy rain. Towards Clear Lake and parts of the coastal range, it's going to be rain as well. Could still see some flooding issues in that pocket. But most of our Sunday for the Central Valley is going to be dry. A few spits of rain here and there, not a high impact day for us. But north of I-80, we will watch for the mud and debris flows up there, especially around the Park Fire just off to the east of Chico that we were tracking in the past year or so. So that is one of the areas that we'll be tracking for the potential of burn scar mud flows. Headlines heading into our weather impact alerts. We're going to get right back into it. So Sunday, not necessarily an impact day, but Monday through Friday, we've got a couple of wet weather waves that'll be moving through. I'm breaking it down in just a moment here. Impacts are going to be heavy rain and snow as well as wind. Be flood ready as well as consider travel plans. Might want to just adjust those for the coming week. A winter storm watch goes into effect on Monday. That'll take us through Wednesday, and then we'll take a pause on Wednesday and then get right back into it Thursday and Friday. So we kind of got two pockets of areas kind of bookend here with weather impact alerts Monday, Tuesday. We get a break on Wednesday, and then we're right back Thursday, Friday. 3 to 7 day weather hazards outlook. We take a look at the heavy rain potential, and that's going to be right along the coast, as well as heavy precipitation, kind of in that line that I was talking about for the foothills and parts of the border area near California and Oregon, where we get some of the higher elevation rain that's coming in. Also looking at that high wind risk, that's going to be for the high country and then parts of the northern Sierra and then as we head towards northern California, towards the Oregon border. Our atmospheric landfall forecast, we're calling for a peak at about 4 here. And you can see some of the precipitation totals, about 2 to 4 inches through the capital region, and then about 10 to 15 inches, kind of bullnosed right through that I-80 line northward, where we could see, again, a bigger risk of some of those mud and debris flows. All right, let me break it down for you in terms of our weather impact alerts. We've got 2 distinct areas here. Monday through Tuesday, we get that cooler system. This weekend, it's kind of been muggy outside, that snow line upwards of 7,000 to 8,000 feet. This is going to be a more typical snow level. We get it at about 6,000 feet. It lowers to 4,000 feet. Possible valley thunderstorms as well as that colder air works in, helps to destabilize the atmosphere, and we get the bigger impacts with that potentially. Then we get a pause on Wednesday, and like I said, Thursday into Friday, we get that colder system arriving, and our snow level drops to near 2,500 feet. This is a cold system moving through. Extended periods of chain controls likely, and the possibility of some road closures as well. As far as our flash flood potential, this will kind of migrate as we see this storm system roll its way northward and then fall back southward again. So Saturday, we've had that flood potential in the slight category. It does migrate its way northward into our Sunday. And then what we're going to see Monday into Tuesday, we get that push of it coming back down into the valley and moving all the way along the central coast. So those coastlines, a very tenuous situation there, especially along Highway 1, where we usually see some problems when we get big rain events like this, Big Sur in particular. River stages, well, most of the rivers are doing pretty well. We had that prolonged period of dryness in January, and that allowed us to kind of move the water down and push it into areas that actually need the water. But Susan River, we're going to watch that near Susanville. That will be above flood stage, it looks like, at one point during the week. For the Sacramento River at I Street Bridge, that's kind of the epicenter of where the American River meets the Sacramento River and tends to have a high flood, or at least higher stages. I shouldn't say flood because we have a lot of releases that happen upstream. But we like to look at that because that's right near downtown Sacramento. So the latest is 9.46 inches and feet, I should say. And then we're going to see that rise to 25.87 feet. That's going to be the crest late Tuesday when we see kind of all the water that's been hitting us run downhill, mainly because of the high elevation rain event. Once that moves through the system, once we get that snow falling in the Sierra instead of rain, we should see the pressure taken off of our river system and will allow things to just kind of happen naturally. So there's not much rain left over from this storm system for the valley, only about 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch at best into our Sunday. But you can see there's going to be higher totals north of I-80. Nevada City could see as much as 4 inches of rain still to come for tonight into our Sunday. Now we head into our Monday through Friday time frame. So we've fast forwarded now into the next work week. And we're talking totals of about 2 to 3 inches in the valley, closer to about 5 to 7+ inches in the foothills. But part of that is going to be rain mixed with snow, because this particular weather system that hits us over the weekend hasn't been a big snow producer. We're only expecting about 1 to 3 inches of snow coming into the Sierra as that colder air starts to work in. But take a look at this dramatically different outlook. Monday through next Friday, we're talking upwards of 40 to 60 inches of snow. Much higher impacts coming our way for the Sierra. The valley, not as much, but that snow line coming down, we could see it as low as about Placerville, certainly Forest Hill, and then Pollock Pines getting in on some of that snow. That's why I was saying the water numbers may be a little bit deceiving, because part of that is going to be snow. All right, let's take a look at this timeline here. Here goes the weather system pressing its way northward here. And so the bigger impacts will be in extreme northern California, and that's where our flood potential will be as well. Then as we head into our Monday, we'll get a bit of a break in the morning, but then that next wave starts to sweep on through, and you can see what happens by the evening commute and into Monday evening. We start to see bigger precipitation totals, but also you'll notice that is snow in the Sierra. That is really good news for some of those smaller tributaries that have a really tough time pulling in water from the Sierra when it's running downhill. As we head into our Tuesday, colder air starts to sweep in, chance of thunderstorms, but also Nice snow falling in the Sierra, at least for skiers and snowboarders. Not so much for travelers because it's very likely we're going to see some periods of road closures up there. Wednesday, a dry day. If you want to head up to the high country, this is perhaps, at least the way that things are playing out right now, the day to do so. And then we await this big plume of moisture coming in for Thursday. Now, this is associated with some colder air. We got that colder air already in place. As we pull in the moisture, should be a pretty good snow producer for the Sierra, but also, again, really difficult travel. So we've got our weather impact alert coming in Monday into Tuesday. Although our snow line falls to about 5,000 feet on Wednesday, it's not a high impact day because there's not much moisture associated with any of the systems coming through. But when we look at that Monday through Friday forecast for our ski resorts, you can see we're looking at about 25 to 70 plus inches of snow coming in over a 5-day period. Now, that's a big weather system for us, at least 2 weather systems for us, and some big numbers, but not completely out of the question. We have certainly seen our fair share of weather events like this in the high country. This is what they prepare for. We need the snow as well. This is the latest snow survey, just happened on Friday, January 31st. We saw 46% of average as Phillips Station, where you see that snow tube going into the ground. They pull that snow tube out, the Department of Water Resources. They look at the snow water equivalent. They look at, okay, what does that snow look like? How much water might we be able to pull out of that snowpack when it comes to the dry season? And for our statewide average, 65% of average. So as we run it down here, if we were to dissect this, Northern Sierra at 89% of average to date, 58 for the Central Sierra, and 47 for the Southern Sierra. That has been before this weather event coming through. Statewide average 65%, and our April 1st average 40%. The reason why we point that date out is because that's the point where we see more snow melt than snowfall. Our reservoirs, where do we hold all that snow melt? And our reservoirs are looking pretty good. We're at about 75 to almost 80% of average for the big ones. Folsom, smaller, 37% of average, but water managers have to be very careful. Can't fill that one up because the water coming down the hill can fill it up really quickly. It just happens to be smaller, so you got to manage that a little bit more so over the winter. New Melones, Don Pedro, Central Sierra, 70 to almost 80% of average. San Luis, pretty much the same situation. And then Millerton, only about 50% of average, 50% of capacity, but it's very likely that's going to go up because we have been getting some pretty good snowfall actually in the Central and Southern Sierra. 8 to 14-day climate outlook, likely cooler scenarios still with us here, even likely wetter into the middle of February. Some good news there, but unfortunately not for travel. We get our Monday storm coming through. Look at this. It's so evident what's happening here. That cold air coming in, that counterclockwise circulation of that low interacting with this big plume of moisture, and that's what's going to deliver huge snowfall for us Thursday into Friday, and rain as well for the valley. After that, get a bit of a break. But in the meantime, we got the active weather with us. In the mountains for the 5-day forecast, we see the rain turn over to snow Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday with that colder air coming in. For the hills, also same situation for Thursday. Our highs only in the upper 40s. And then for the Bay Area, we get that break on Wednesday and we're right back at it for Thursday into Friday. And so that's, again, while I'm calling for the weather impact alert Monday, Tuesday, get that pause on Wednesday. We're right back at it Thursday and Friday. And then it looks like we're starting to dry out. But February off to a very wet start.